Hi, my name's Paul. I work for Robertson's Construction, and today we're just going to touch on online appearance, okay? How you conduct yourself online and how that might impact on your employment prospects. So, why is it important? Well, increasingly, your online presence is becoming more and more a feature of how you apply for jobs, how you present yourself online, and personally and professionally, it's huge. And obviously, with the current situation, it's probably more so now. And what we like to, the message we like to get across is your online content can be absolutely brilliant to promote yourself and to put yourself in a good position in the employment market, but it can also be counterproductive. That's what we're going to look at briefly today. Robertson are a large family-owned construction firm, and we have over 3,000 staff members at present. And 70% of employers actually do look at someone's online appearance during the employment process. So it is important that you do consider these things. And today we're going to look at just some of the platforms available and how best to utilize them for your purposes, whether that be personal or professional, because the personal and professional nowadays are very much closely linked, especially with technology. So when you consider some of these platforms that we've discussed, such as the social media ones and the search engines, what is your online presence? Well, your online presence it's effectively a footprint. So when your name's been mentioned, or you've actually done something online yourself, then that leaves a footprint online. And there's two types of footprint. One of them's direct and the other one is indirect. So that your direct footprint could be, it's something that you've specifically posted. It could be on social media, your blog, etc. Or it could be something you've put on LinkedIn for your job. Or it could be something that someone's wrote about you. So it could be a report in the local newspaper. It could be something from your club or your society that you're involved with, or an educational establishment that's mentioned you directly. So that's your direct online presence. But there's also your indirect online presence, which can sometimes be counterproductive if you don't watch it. So, for example, you might have posted something on one of the platforms thinking it was private when really anyone can have access to it. And also, it could be something where someone has mentioned your name without you knowing, and again, anyone can have access to that, and that could again be sort of counterproductive because it could be negative information or information that you don't necessarily want someone else to see. So being aware of your direct and indirect presence is very important when you're using online platforms. And it's certainly something as an employer, 70% of employers actually do run checks on potential employees on these platforms. And if there's some indirect activity there that you're not aware of, you wouldn't want an employee to see, then that could be a cause for concern. So what does your online presence say about you? Well, that ultimately depends what you put on it. Okay. And employers might look at your online presence and come to some conclusions about you that might either be correct or incorrect, depending on what you put on it. So some advice and guidance around that. Use your different platforms for different purposes and use them for the correct purposes. So for example, in my case, I use LinkedIn for my job. I use Instagram privately for my kids, for example, pictures of my children. And say Facebook, I would say I'm self-employed rather than the company I work for, because no one really needs to know that, but on maybe LinkedIn they would. So my advice for you, what we were saying about direct and indirect presence, is think about what you post. Would would you want an employer to see it? Would you want your parents to see it? Um, so think about the audience, and you could also have dual accounts. So if you wanted to maybe show pictures of nights out and social stuff, but you wouldn't necessarily want an employee to see that, then maybe set up two accounts. You could also think about privacy settings. That's quite important. So on your online platforms, look at your privacy settings as to who can actually access your information, and tailor your information to the sort of audience that you're going to be wanting them to see. So if you do have like a Facebook account, um, keep it amongst your friends and watch what you post. We'll get onto that next about what future employers might want to see and not want to see. And also keep up to date with your information as well. So make sure that it's up to date, it's relevant, and just consider the content that you put in, make it relevant for that platform. So for example, if you've got an Instagram account, what do you want to do with that? And who do you want to see it? Check the privacy settings. Same with your Facebook account. Then if you do have things like Twitter, check the privacy settings again. Who can see what? And if you need to get a dual account, get a dual account. As an employer, there's things that we'd like to see on someone's online appearance, and there's other things that we like to see less. I mean, I can give you a couple of examples where I once Google searched a potential employee, and turns out this person had committed several crimes, and um, that was this person's online appearance. And also, I nearly took a labourer on in construction industry, and all over his Facebook was sectarian stuff. And the city I was in was very divided that way. And I thought to myself, how would this person conduct themselves, or how would they fit in with others? Because you've got to think about harmony and in the workplace. And so that online appearance for me was a cause for concern. So it is quite important what you do online. And some of the other things we look for is spelling and grammar. Something as simple as that, spelling and grammar. Don't use text language or inappropriate language. Make sure your status is always positive and it reflects a true likeness of yourself. There's stuff in there with positive stuff about your work or your education, your volunteering, anything like that. Just anything that demonstrates your strengths. If you've done any volunteering or charity work, or you've got any awards or anything positive. And if you do surround yourself with, say, characters who may affect or influence your online appearance, everything you put on there is great, but those who you know might not think that way when they're mentioning you. So they might have less to lose. So that's kind of the things we look for as pointers to say, these are some of the basic things that stand out for us. Also, getting into political debates or having strong political opinions and being quite vocal about that online is another no, really. Even if the author agrees with you politically, that author would still know to understand that there's going to be people out there with the opposing view. So be very careful and keep that sort of thing wrapped into your sort of privacy settings for the audience that's targeted to, like example, friends. References to drink, drugs, um, lifestyle habits, which would suggest that maybe you wouldn't be an effective employee or you'd be unprofessional. Again, that's something to bear in mind. Being negative about your school, your current employer, former employers, other people, and putting all that stuff online would suggest that maybe would that person do that in this workplace? Just kind of in proper language and conduct as well. Again, if you want to do that, that's fine. Just make sure that it's on the platforms that potential employers either A, won't see, or B, the privacy settings are such that they can't. And if you follow those sort of do's and don'ts, then generally you should be okay. But always assess and reassess where you're at. Assess your updates, your statuses, your biographies, and put yourself in the eyes of the person who's reading it. So if you want an employer to see it, think like the employer, right? Is this what I want to see? And as I was touching on before, if you want to have a laugh and share pictures and stories of mad nights out, then by all means do it. Just make sure that it doesn't get into the wrong hands, so to speak. So you don't want an employer, potential employee, to see that, because they would then form an impression of you that might not necessarily be right, because your online appearance is you promoting yourself, and it's a great way of doing that. The possibilities are endless with it, but done incorrectly, it could backfire. So as an employer, we do say, look at, manage, and stay on top of your online appearance, because it's very important, especially if you're a young person starting out, and young people we know use a lot of platforms and social media, and maybe put things on there without thinking it through. So, and it can stay there forever. So just bear that in mind, and just be careful and use these online platforms to promote yourself, and you could really use them to kick on. And just bear in mind what we've discussed about not to do with it, because it could take years to actually shake that off. So that's it for online appearance for now, and we'll hopefully see you soon.